Hey guys, my name's Evan and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about how to create masterful astrophotography landscapes. We're going to go over gear, setup, taking the shots, and even post-processing. You ready for this? I am. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to need is either a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. I got here the T7i and it works great, but what I love even more is my Fuji X-T2. I think it has great low light performance even though it's a crop sensor camera. Next, because we're doing landscape photography, we're going to need a relatively wide angle lens. I personally love the Fujifilm 16mm f1.4, but you could use any lens that has a wide aperture, which is the key. Now the next thing you're going to need is a tripod. Now a tripod doesn't have to be fancy or anything, just has to be able to hold your camera, and as long as it can do that, you'll be great. So it can be portable, it can be stationary, you get the gist. As long as your camera's steady, you're good. So the final thing that you may want to get is a camera shutter release. Now this allows you to take a photo without destabilizing your camera and making it wiggle. So this allows you to get nice crisp images without any blur or motion blur. I use it on all my shoots and I highly recommend it. So that's it for the gear, so let's get into actually taking the photos. So your settings are going to depend a lot upon where you are and if the moon is up and other variables like that. But a good baseline for me shooting on Fujifilm is f2.2, ISO 6400, and 20-second exposures. Because the stars are always moving, there is a maximum length you can shoot without the stars becoming trails. So to do that, we can use the 500 rule. So take 500 and divide it by your focal length. And remember, if you're using a crop sensor camera, you have to multiply that by the crop factor. So for me, that's 500 divided by 16 times 1.5, and that equals to around 20 seconds. So that's the maximum I can go. So the main thing to consider when shooting astrophotography is your location. And when you choose that location, you want to make sure you're there at a time when the moon isn't up, and that the location has minimal light pollution. That way you'll be able to capture the maximum amount of Milky Way. So now we've taken our photo, it looks great, but it's time to process it. Let's do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the white balance tool and select a neutral area so that I get a better tone on the image. Next I'm going to grab the exposure and bring it up a little bit, same with the contrast. I'm also going to bring the highlights up just a little bit and the shadows down. The whites a tiny bit up as well, and the blacks down. I'm going to leave the clarity as is and give a little dehaze to the image. I'm going to go to the selective color adjustments and I'm going to play around with some of the colors such as green and blue to give the image a more neutral, more appealing tone. I'm then going to move down to the split toning section. I'm going to adjust the shadows to be more blue and adjust the saturation of those a little bit. Then I'm going to go to sharpening, and by clicking Alt on the keyboard, I'm going to mask out the areas that I don't want to sharpen. I'm then going to go to noise reduction and add a little bit of that as well. When I zoom in on the image, I see that the stars have a lot of fringing, and so I'm going to go to defringe and remove some of that purple. I'm then going to go to Edit in Adobe Photoshop to do some more adjustments. Here I'm first going to remove the satellites with the healing brush, then go to Dust and Scratches and make the stars a little smaller with my radius at 4, threshold at 3. These may be different for you, but these are the settings that I like. After that, I went back into Lightroom and did some quick minor adjustments, and that's where I called it done. So I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, and you know what? I'll see you in the next one.